I'm just going to try to tie in a few things. This is my understanding. I'm sure people will be upset, but I'm just saying my understanding. I've been talking about the Iron Kingdoms, different things. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. I believe that could be Satan, as his wings were plucked by the Most High. He was given a wicked heart of man, and he is like a lion, walking to and fro in the earth, looking to devour. Because what we're talking and looking at here is the beasts that were against God's children. And behold, another beast, a second like a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. If you look on one side of the lineage, Cain's side, we have Lamech as the bear, the 3 ribs in his mouth. For Lamech praised killing and death. Arise, devour much flesh is quite suiting for him, because, as he said, if Cain was avenged sevenfold, so much more would come to Lamech. And after this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So if we look at the lineage here of Ham, the wings of these nations, Cush, Canaan, Mizraim, and Nimrod, 4 mighty nations. Cush being Ethiopia, wings being Noah, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. We can see that it's pointing at Cush, showing us in that direction. Here in Jeremiah 13:23, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. So it was like a leopard, and we had the 4 and the 4. Those are some pretty heavy nations, including Babylon, Nimrod, and yeah. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I have mentioned the iron. We have Tubal, Cain. See, he was the one that dealt with the iron and the brass. His kingdoms of Tubal. And we see in Ezekiel 27:13, Javan, Tubal, and Meshech, they were thy merchants. They traded the persons of men, slaves, and vessels of brass in thy market. And if we see here, It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. Let's take a look at a place in that land. As you can see on those maps showing the Meshesh and Tubal, that puts us in the region of Georgia and Armenia, above Syria. They're one of the largest nations to start with this metal and iron trade, forging all sorts of things. And we know the ones that follow Tubal, they believe that raising the sword, their metal iron swords, is doing their part for God. There's a few things about this region, Armenia. For one, we have Mount Ararat. That's where the ark settled after the flood. Also, Mount Ararat is known for its lapis armenus stone. It's a precious blue stone, and they would often ship them down to Babylon because Babylon was their chief merchant for those wondrous blue stones. Just a little bit here. Ariada is a mountainous land that appears in Sumerian myths, identified with Ararat. If you've watched any of my other videos, blue is the color they want you looking at. They just love the color blue. Also, Armenia was one of the first places where the Bible was actually translated from its original tongue. The Armenians actually invented their own language in order to accomplish this feat. They wanted to be unique like the Greeks or something, so somewhere probably the 4th or 5th century BC, they invented their own language and they translated the Bible. And there was a few variations with the stories of Cain, the stories of Lamech. I will say also Armenia is pretty much the birthplace of Judaism. It's very heavy with rituals, and their country was really strict on all that for a while. You know, they based everything around this new language and things. I'm just taking a quick look at Armenia here. It says the historical modern distribution, ethnic Armenians make up 98%. So we have the Yazidis, Russians, Assyrians, Ukrainians, Greeks, Kurds, Georgians, Belarus, and Jews. So altogether, that makes 10. So it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. I'm sorry, I read that. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horns spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. Now, if you think about that, that one's actually talking about Christ, how they destroyed him. They were ministering to him. Judgment was set. His gaze was fixed on that. And you see, we can tell that it was a little horn if we go back and look at a familiar story. 1 Samuel 17, the story of David and Goliath. We just have to look when David is speaking. Here he goes. And David said unto Saul, he was the king, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb of the flock. There's the lion from the first beast, the bear, holding the 3 ribs, the second beast, took a lamb out of the flock, destroyed the one white as wool, Jesus. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the servant, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. Remember the Philistines. They're coming from that other side with Ham. David smote them. The lineage of Christ is coming from David, the little horn. And they're telling us here, he's telling us here, when he's talking to Saul. David said, Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and Lord be with thee. If you read Psalms, David's always talking, Am I? I am I? We know Christ comes from there. And we have to remember, we're not talking about Christ as a beast, we're talking about how they treated him. They treated him like a beast. Now we read further here. Concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, in his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Now you see how it said, and came to the Ancient of Days. It's showing Christ coming back to his seat. Because I beheld till the thrones, in number 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. And then back to 13, see? He came to the Ancient of Days. He returned. It's like the 2 witnesses when they talk about how fire will come from their mouths. That's like this in number 10. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, and thousands ministered, listening to the word of God. Revelation 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. We see that as Israel, quite literally. Just think of it this way. We have Eve. 12 stars. 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there, because we know that she's going to have a child, obviously. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, and having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And if you think about it this way, if you look at Japheth, we count from Adam 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. So technically, Japheth would have 10 heads. Let me see this here. See, look at that's 1/3 of 12 is 4. This way saw his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, and to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Now, when it's saying caught up, it doesn't mean they just magically brought him, he disappeared, he's in heaven now. No. You see, she brought forth a man child. She said when she had Cain, God gave me a man. And we know that Cain's lineage was to rule with iron. We look at Tubal, we look at all that side. Just an example here. It's caught up, to be left remaining, survive, to leave over, to remain over. So that's why it says here, caught up onto God and to his throne. Nobody was supposed to kill Cain. He was protected. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now she's away safe. She's on the good side of the Lord, right? Pain in childbirth, but she's kept safe. There was a war in heaven. I'm not sure about the order of this. I feel like this war happened, and it's showing us a bit of a pretense. There was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was her place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. We can see above, the dragon was thrown to earth. We've already read that further up. And I heard a loud voice saying, in heaven now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. We know we have the deceiver, Satan. He's against Christ, wants to come against the throne. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Now we go back, and when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. We know from the story of Genesis that Satan was there was always going to be something between Satan and Eve's lineage. He was always going to be against it, against her children, because he was so wroth that he was stuck living off the dust, living off men, and had to crawl on his belly. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she may fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and at times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And you think of the great flood that came. God sent it because all those tyrannical giants running loose, everyone was against God. There was all sorts of abominations happening. Who corrupted the minds of men to make that happen? Satan. He's always there. What did he do in the garden? He's always there. So think about it. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood. From all his bad doing to humans, God sent that flood after. He hoped that she would be carried away as well. But she wasn't. She was protected. They loved God. They trusted him. And he was nourishing them. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. We know the waters have subsided now from the flood. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and had the testimony of Jesus Christ. We know Noah and the Shem line. They survived, and they are to be carrying on the commandments. Then we jump ahead here to Revelation 20. I won't read all of this, but I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold on the dragon and that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should not deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. I guess I will. I've read most of it already, but... And it says, And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of men that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not been worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. We're speaking of the mark, we're speaking of our mind. The spirit of the beast gets into our mind. Our hands play out the actions. That's how the mark. And the rest of the dead lived not again until 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Gog and Magog. So as we see this land around Tubal's and Magog and Meshesh and all around Mount Ararat here, in the Armenian area, seems like that's where the fourth beast, at least the spirit, originated from. It's already going out into the four corners of the earth. The many mishmashed religions, even the Talmud, most likely came from that region of Armenia. Just some things we could think about, should think about, because they have gone and taken over the four corners of the earth. This is the land of iron. See, not accepting the mark would be not worshipping the way this beast insists we live. We don't accept it in our minds. We don't accept the spirit of it. The iron beast that has gone to the four corners of the world, has consumed most of the hearts and minds of man, is controlled directly by Satan himself. His spirit, the wickedness that men do, we have to hold on. We have to we have to know what this is really about. There's an enemy, the invisible enemy all around us, and visible, yet we don't want to face it. We're all just sitting waiting. What did he do? He went into the temples, he cracked his whip. Not to be violent, of course, never. But to know, to be aware, to point it out. This is what we have to do. Remember in John 14:30-31, Jesus is talking to his disciples, "Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh, and hath nothing in me, but that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father gave me commandment, even so I do. Arise, let us go hence." He's telling us right there, Satan has nothing in him because he knows that he loves the Father. He knows the Father gave him a commandment, and he knows to do it. As we, too, are to do. Reject the beast, reject that mark. The time will come. God bless.